I saw there was a couple questions. There was one from so there was a question just about like what is the TO talk. If you want advice or like you want to ask questions to me as someone who's TO'd a lot, I can run down some of the resume if people want me to. But I've TO'd at Genesis, Big House, Smash and Splash. I was one of the head staff at Low Tier City. I've run the largest esports tournament in Minnesota history. Like, I've done a lot of big things. And I don't say that to be bragging. It's just, I want to tell you where I'm coming from. Because if I don't, it just sounds like I'm another person trying to give you advice. And like, I want to be clear, I usually have good advice. I have good experience. I don't know if I have good advice. We're going to find out. What to do when players want preferential treatment, I think highly depends on what treatment they're asking about. It is a contentious take, but I don't think preferential treatment is always bad. Some people, it's called TPP, top player privilege. Some people say top player privilege and they're like, this is evil. This is an example of why esports are wrong and it needs to all be grassroots and like everyone is the same. And we just don't live in that world. That's not reasonable. That is not a way to run an event in 2021. You just can't. I do think it depends on what the preferential treatment is. If there's a player that you know if you get them, they will bring in 5,000 views to your stream, or if there's a player that if you know you can get them, they will bring in like 300 more people will register because they want to be at the same tournament that Axe goes to or like whatever, and they need something special to make it, do it. Obviously don't like rig a bracket or anything, but like if they're like, hey, I can make it, but I need to have a later pool, like, all right, we'll figure it out. If they want to hold up an entire bracket because they're entering like 5 different events, no, we will, like, you're not holding up a bracket that you're already in. What's the most unreasonable request you could get? I'm trying to think of like one that I've actually gotten. I get a lot of requests that are like, I want to play in a really specific area because I really want to wait for stream. And I'm like, you have to wait like 7 more sets because they have a lineup. We don't have time to put you on stream. Or I'm trying to think of like what else. I think the most unreasonable, they're not even requests. Often the things that I see that are like top player privilege are players that do things and they don't realize that other people can't get away with it. So it's things like not showing up to your pool for 30 minutes and everyone else in that situation would be disqualified, but this player instead is like given a lot of extra time to show up, and we call and we make sure like, so that's where I think top player privilege is bad. I've done that. I've done the like, hey, we know who this person is, we should call, or we should like message them on Twitter, or we should talk to one of their friends to make sure we know where they are. But I also do that if I do happen to know who the person is in real life and they're not a top player. If it's just like, oh wait, that's a player from Michigan that I know, I will find a Michigan friend and be like, hey, do you know this person's number? Can you try to call them? It's just easier if you're a top player for me to be like, oh, it's Mewtwo King, or oh, it's Switch, or oh, it's whatever. Not that any of those players specifically are the ones who would show up late, but that kind of thing does happen. That kind of thing for sure happens. When I say that top player privilege is fine, I am okay with top player lounges, things like that. I'm actually totally fine with that. I know some people really hate it. I think it is fine to have areas where top players or commentators or personalities can go where no one will go and bother them. Because have you been to a Smash tournament? Everyone says like, oh, we treat, like, the cool thing about the FGC and about Smash is that everybody is even, like, equal, and you can play anybody in your pool. And like, yeah, I agree. I think that's beautiful. But it also means that you'll see 500 people approach Mango in an hour period. Wobbles can't walk around the venue without 30 people trying to like find him. Like, I don't think of VIP rooms as being a like, here's a special place for like, here's a special, like, you've earned it. I view that as a like, I have gone back to the VIP rooms before for tournaments that I've staffed, and just if my badge happens to let me in, and I don't do it because I want to like talk with all the players. I do it because there's sometimes where I'm like, I need a break, and if I'm on the floor at Genesis, I will have 800 people who see my staff badge and just ask me questions about bracket and about what the schedule is and about whatever it is. Like, sometimes that's your only chance to literally get any break. More so get away spaces. Yeah, exactly. I think VIP rooms, you need to know who is allowed to be in them. It can't just be like who the person, if you have someone to like watch the door, and like I don't remember if we did or not, if you have someone who's like supposed to watch the door to make like check badges, it shouldn't be a does Johnny watching the door recognize who this player is. Oh, they're an ultimate player. All right, we're gonna have a lot more ultimate VIPs because the melee ones, they just don't know who they are. Like, it can't just be a like you're a top player in my eyes. It has to be a like you have the right badge to get in. But honestly, I'm very honest with the people I work with. You learn very quickly, and it's a joke I've made a lot, is almost every tournament that I have gone to that's a large tournament, so like your Genesises and big houses and stuff like that, they have staff shirts. I never wear the staff shirt. I just don't. I don't like them. I don't like the way they look. They're not comfortable because it's usually bad quality t-shirts. Some people love keeping their staff shirts, and I get it. It's just not for me. But what I found out is that if you have the right badge and you're holding a clipboard, everyone listens to you. Sometimes you don't even need the right badge. Sometimes you can just have a clipboard and run up to someone that you do not know and be like, hey, Plup, we need you at this station in about 20 minutes. Just want to make sure that you got it. We'll be sending someone over to make sure you're on stream later. There is no reason that Plup would know who I am. I was not wearing a staff shirt, did not have a staff badge. I just held a clipboard. It works. Or even if I don't have a clipboard, I'll have my phone out and I'll be reading off of it on my phone. Like, if you speak with conviction and power, does not matter. And that is one of the big differences between like good volunteers and bad volunteers, or good TOs and bad TOs, is a lot of new volunteers or like people who aren't used to having positions where they need to talk to top players, they get really nervous. Like, oh, I can't tell Mike Hayes that he needs to like be on a different setup now. Like, I can't do that. Like, this is a player that I've been watching for like 3 years. I'm like, I don't care. I'm just gonna treat them like a normal human and go and tell them what they need to do, and then we're fine. I've never had anyone get mad at me. I have had a couple people that are like annoyed that they have to do something, but it's never at me. It's never that they're mad at me. They're mad at the tournament schedule, or they're mad at like something else. I'm just the messenger in that case, even if I did make the schedule. But yeah, so players that are mad is different, and then I will take a much harder line stance. Like, I've said, like, hey, I need you to do this. Calm down, come back. Or I've been like, hey, there's times where someone like loses a really tight set, and I do this for both top players and for just total randos though. It's something that I really like to do if I have time. If I know that this person has a little bit of time and that we're not holding up bracket, and someone loses a tight set, and it's just like really stressful, and I can tell they're pissed, or they want a tight set and I can tell they're just like have too much adrenaline, I'll be like, hey, do you need like a couple minutes to like go get water or to like calm down? Because we can wait before your next set. And sometimes they're like, nah, I want to keep playing. I have the adrenaline. And sometimes they're like, oh, thank God, I need to wait. Can you talk about the importance of rules and regulations as TO, whether it be general safety or match rules? If you choose a rule for one person, you need to follow it for everybody, unless you clearly find out that your choice was wrong. That's the biggest thing, is not following up on it. Like, I see a lot of people that get frustrated, and what they're really frustrated at is this person was told this thing is okay, and now I'm being told it's not. And it could be like a top player privilege thing. In that case, be like, hey, he's a VIP. We need to let him like leave for a sec. That's fine. He's doing a photo shoot, whatever. But like if one person is told that like wobbling isn't okay and the other one is, obviously that's a big deal. So if anybody knows who Thor is, a very, very good Link player. He's beaten some top 50 PM players. At one point was PR'd in like every game in Minnesota. I think he lives in like Arizona now. He was in Illinois and then he moved south. I forget where he is now. But literally Thor was like part of the reason for this rule. And it was that if we let Thor play every game, there was a chance he would make top 8 in every game. And he was totally cool working with us and was like, yep, I understand why I cannot play every game. But like, that's the kind of thing where if you break that rule once, which we did and we had to learn from, was, oh, just because this person's really good at 2 games and they want to enter the other one, that's the reason you have the rule, because now they are holding up bracket for everyone. Like, we already have to work on making sure we're holding up bracket for players that aren't good, or players that are good but only entering 2 games. Yeah, having consistency within a team. So something that I really, really like, and I know a couple of tournaments that do this, I do this for any tournaments where I'm higher up on staff, is we do a mandatory volunteer meeting. Yeah, volunteer meetings are so important. And I get a lot of people who are like, but I know how to run a double elimination bracket. I don't need to do this. That's not, I'm going to cover, like, make sure you check that the loser of B actually gets put into the right spot. I've had full brackets get messed up because of that. We did make it work, but it was hard. But it's everything else. It's the soft things, not the hard rules on like how do a bracket work, or like do you want to prioritize winners or losers? Because like that's something you learn as you do it, and that's something that but I really make sure like volunteers. If you are a bracket manager, or if you are a pool captain and you're running a bracket and you have a question, raise your clipboard and your senior volunteer will come to you. You do not leave, because if you leave, then all the players start leaving because they don't know what's going on either. Like that kind of thing where I'm like, because a lot of people would be like, oh, I just have a question, I'll go to the TO desk quick. It's like, nope, we have a chain of command for a reason. So like but it depends on the tournament. If it's a smaller regional, yeah, the pool captains can come to the TO. But that's why having a volunteer meeting is important, because I might run my tournaments in one way and a different, like Stop Your Friendlies with Nate and Chuck might run theirs in a different way. Where I will say, if you have an issue, the pool captain will raise their clipboard and the senior volunteer will come to you. If the senior volunteer cannot handle anything, they will come get a TO or myself. I also have a rule where I say you are not allowed to make any DQ calls by yourself. You have to ask me before you make DQs. Like that sort of thing. Because I want to make a whole call on DQs at a certain time in a round. So say it's 20 minutes into a round. I want to be able to make a call so I can be like, hey, every player that was late was, unless they told us and knew that they were going to be in a certain amount of time, every player that was late was DQ'd at this certain time, because I don't want people to get preferential treatment. And if we do it case by case basis, often it gets the preferential treatment. But like, it depends. It depends on your tournament. It depends on if it's a regional. It depends on if it's a local. It depends on if it's a national. But that's why volunteer meetings, or at least like a volunteer chat or doc, I also usually have a chat with all of the senior volunteers. Like, those things are super important. Organizers need to remember that players' time is valuable. So I've been to locals that lasted till 1 a.m. Yeah, especially because of stream. Knowing how to balance your stream is a special skill. A lot of TOs don't have a good sense of like, I know if I put on a top 8, hey, only I can DQ me, you can't DQ me, right? I have a pretty good sense per game of how long a top 8 will last. Usually it's about 2.5 hours if you stream all of top 8. Like that's on the TO to know how to schedule the stream. That's also something I've done at a lot of majors. I really enjoy doing stream running. That's like one of my favorite roles at a major if I'm not if I'm not full staffing, I like doing streaming running. But the reason I like doing it is because I like putting in like, hey, I've heard of this player and I know they're making big upsets. Like I know that they've been making big upsets lately. I want to get them on. Or like, easy example. So this is a personal one. If I know a player from a different game, but I know they're good at the game that I'm running stream for, I'll put them on. Just a little bonus. At SNS, like 2 years ago, I put on Switch versus Red because I knew that Switch was really good and Red was clearly supposed to win. But I knew that Switch was phenomenal and Switch made the upset on stream. Like that kind of thing. Or if I notice that there's like, oh, that's crazy. There's a pool where a low tier that we've never heard of is just running train. I'll get that low tier on. Like, I like being able to do that kind of thing. I feel like stream running lets me directly build out the storylines of a tournament, in a way that you only is rivaled by the actual commentators. How easy is it to adjust the schedule during an event? I don't like to change the schedule once an event is started. Once an event is started, if you change the schedule, you have to be very, very clear and put it out on like Facebook and Twitter and Discord and word of mouth and make multiple announcements in the venue. And like, you have to do so much work to reorganize it or reschedule an event. Think about the fiasco of last SNS, how they had to push back so many pools. Same idea. There's people that missed their pool because all the schedules kept changing. It sucked. I like to overestimate a little bit. I think as long as you're not doing insane waves, 2 hours per wave is good. Most people do not use the full 2 hours. If they do, it's like the end of stream is using the last of those 2 hours. Even if only one person doesn't hear about a schedule change, it's bad luck. Exactly, yeah. So I really prefer to make, even if I overestimate though, and so the worst thing that happens is the schedule's too relaxed and people have too much time. Oh no. They got to chill for 30 minutes. That sucks. It's much better than a like, oh my god, my schedule got changed. What's happening? Yeah, I usually estimate 2 hours per wave. Usually it doesn't take that long. Most pools finish between an hour to an hour and a half. Pools that have big things happening on stream will go later. So often a pool captain will be done with their entire pool with half an hour left, but they're waiting on like a couple stream matches. That's fine. That's totally fine. It depends on how many setups you have. It's really hard for me to just give a strict thing other than the 2 hours per wave stuff. It's really hard for me to make a strict thing without like knowing how many setups you have or how many setups each pool has or how many. Are you running 16 person pools or are you running 8 person pools? Or are you running 32 person pools? Those are all big things. Is it round robin pools? Is it like everything matters? I remember a major that changed people's pool slots the night before, which caused some people to miss pools. When should pools be finalized? I think pools should be finalized bare minimum 2 days beforehand. I like, at any event I've done, I usually try to get pools out the week beforehand, but like with enough days. So here's the problem. Every time you say you finalize pools, I view pools as a draft. I will put out a rough draft of pools with the understanding that people will come, and I will put out a like, if you have issues with pools, here's the thing. I think the actual finalized version needs to be at least 2 days ahead of time. I think more tournaments should have things finalized the week beforehand. I know it doesn't happen, and I know it's hard because a lot of places don't close registration. But I also think that majors shouldn't have registration open a week beforehand. So if your registration closes like a month beforehand, I think you can have pools done, finalized, and like on their third revision a week beforehand. I think that should be fine. Aside from making sure that dope tournaments happen, what are your favorite benefits from being an accomplished TO? So you're saying outside of like events that I've been able to do? if I'm understanding that correctly. Because, like, I take a lot of pride in the fact that I've run the largest esports event in Minnesota history. It's not huge, it was like 350, but that's still larger than not only Smash, but any other esports event in Minnesota. I now have to be careful and say esports tournament, because now that we have a Call of Duty team, Call of Duty ran a larger event because they had the opening weekend of Call of Duty League here and a lot more people watched it. But I had the most entrants and competitors. Benefits are strange. I do just get a lot of satisfaction out of making sure things happen. A lot of TOing, and a lot of TOs will tell you this, is I need to do, like, if I don't do this, no one does it. And so if I don't make sure this tournament runs, it's not going to run, or it's going to be bad. And so sometimes you run tournaments out of spite. It's not great, but you do. A lot of TOs are not being paid, or not being paid much. So it's not like a money thing. I've definitely lost money overall in flying to events to run them. But I think one of my favorite benefits is that I consider it like a stipend. It allows me to take vacations that I normally wouldn't be able to. There's tournaments that, like, that's a lot of money for me to go. I'm going to make half of it back. In being a senior volunteer, or in, like, whatever role I'm doing. And I view this the same thing for commentary. I don't make money on commentary, but I do get money. And so if I'm saying, like, oh, I'm going to go to Genesis, but I'm going to be paid to staff and do commentary, I'm not going to make money on the entire weekend, but I'm now only going to be out like $200 instead of $500 or whatever. I consider it like it helps me take a vacation that I normally wouldn't have been able to, and I get to travel and I get to see things. Biggest thing is that I love meeting people. I'm very extroverted. It's hard at tournaments because it's one of those things where if I'm running a tournament, say let's just choose a random number. Say there's 500 people on an event and I'm the head TO. I've never been a head TO for a 500 person event, but that idea. If it's a 500 person event and I'm the head TO, all 500 people hear me at some point, or see me, or know that I'm the person running it at some point. I do not meet all 500 people though. So there's a lot of times where someone will come up to me and be like, yo, Wisely, I was at this event like a year ago. It's great to see you here too. And it's like, I don't know who you are. And I feel bad about it. And I don't say it that way, but there's times where it's just like, somebody like, oh, is that event you ran like a year and a half ago? And it's just like, it was 300 other people there. You didn't talk to me. I don't know you. Or like when you talked to me, it was to introduce yourself and tell me that you won 2-1 and that you went back to your pool. It's like, that doesn't, but I still get to meet a lot of people. I really enjoyed flying people out. Like I got to fly IBDW out, and I got to fly I got to fly a bunch of PM players out. I've flown Switch out. I've flown Fuzz out. I've flown Sosa out. Who else have I done for Melee? There's definitely more people I've done for Melee. Why am I just blanking on outside of IBDW? Whatever. I've flown a lot of people out for events. Kage, different things like that. And some of them I've gotten to know because of that. And that's a fun thing, is like, when I fly people out, I try to fly people out who don't have, like, I'm not asking for Axe or Mango or people like that. While I would love for them to be there, I'm trying to fly people out that if I don't help them with their flight, they won't be able to attend. So like when I flew IBDW out, it was before he was top 10 in the world, but we knew that he was getting up there. It was also when he was unsponsored. And usually when I fly people out, I'm not like covering their entire flight. Usually I will say, like, I'm able to give this much money. It should be roughly half of your flight. We have this many people currently registered. We are expecting this many. And that way they can do the math on, like, if they think it's worth it for them or not to attend. But usually if I say, like, I'll help cover half your flight, people are down. People are so down. That's how I got Spark to come to an event. That's how I got a lot of different stuff. And so being able to fly people out and giving my local scene a chance to like get to know and hang out in a much more casual way with some of their favorite players, and get to like play against them. The people, I still have people that talk to me about like, oh my god, I remember when I got to play against South, or I remember when I got to play against Kais, or like whatever. And it's like, cool. Like, that's the fact that people 3 years later are still telling me like, I remember when I got to do this thing because of a tournament you ran. That's like one of the coolest moments for me, always. Is the people, like, I've had people tell me that like, more like local or regional people tell me that like, Push More Buttons was the best weekend of their life. And for me, that was just a very, very stressful weekend. But the fact that someone can be like, this is one of the coolest moments of my life. I got to play friendlies for an hour with one of my favorite players. And then we were at a big regional and I made it out of pools for the first time. Great. Super, super excited. I love that. Benefits that are more personal, that aren't community focused. I get to meet a lot of people. I know I just said that it's the extroverted thing, but I have made connections and I will be straight up about that, like networking. But I don't view that in a like, I met this person and now I can run this event. It is much more like, we're in this together. We're both very stressed. We're going to complain about the tournament. And we're going to go to the venue bar afterwards and get ready for tomorrow. I would have never met a lot of my good friends in Smash. I'll be real. A lot of my very good friends. I would have never, Fuzz is in chat right now. I don't think I could have ever met Fuzz if I wasn't a TO, or at least met him in the same way. But I was like, hey, Fuzz, you want to come to a tournament? Fuzz said, yeah, let's do it. And now we're just friends.